Okay, folks, welcome so much to the webinar. You have joined the Keys to Success webinar. This is the fourth in a series. This series is brought to you by the California Collaborative for Educational Excellence. They're a different kind of state agency that connects practitioners with school leaders to give them advice and to improve public education. We're so glad that they have sponsored this series. They are working with the Small School Districts Association. Tim Taylor is with us today. We're so excited to be putting this on with him. We've got support from the California Charter Schools Association, and my name is Laura Kerr. I'm with the 360 Accelerator. We prove public education by building capacity, momentum, and relationships amongst public school leaders. You can learn more about the 360 Accelerator at 360accelerator.org. I am really excited for you to meet our guest today from Springs Charter School. The purpose of this webinar is to provide thought partnership from experts who've been doing hybrid, virtual, and personalized learning at a time when we know many of you guys are reimagining, rethinking public education within your context. We know you are getting tons of information from across the state, from the county, from your colleagues in the region about what public school would look like next year. The purpose of this webinar is to connect you with people who've been doing this work intentionally, by design, for many years, not just months, so that you can ask them questions about how they do it and improve what you're doing on the ground because of that. So today there's a couple different ways that you can make this time super valuable for you. The folks from Springs Charter School, they're amazing, and they could talk about their program all day. We want to make sure that we're focused on things that make a difference for you. So just start by taking a moment to think about where your team is in planning for next year, and what are the big questions that you have in your head around how to make this work, how you're going to make this work. So maybe you are struggling with instructional practice, how to support teachers. Maybe you're thinking about grading or technology. Maybe you're thinking about equity issues around how you make sure you reach families and kids, students with special needs or English language learners. Maybe you're trying to figure out the ed tech stuff and how that's going to work best. Or maybe you're interested in education finance and are trying to figure out the funding piece of this. Springs Charter School is an independent study program, and so they'll talk a little bit about that piece. We also have an instructional leader who has been doing virtual instruction. I learned asynchronous and synchronous instruction. And so if you have questions around that, how to execute that, we have experts today for you to tap into. So think about your sticky wickets. Where would you like to learn more? And that will guide us today. This is a facilitated webinar, so your question and answers will prompt me to ask them questions, and that'll drive where we go. One last thing to enhance your engagement. I know you have all been on a lot of different platforms, Google Meets and Zoom. This is WebEx. Thanks for joining us. Down at the bottom of your screen, if you move your cursor around, a menu will come up with some dots. There's a dot on the bottom right-hand side with 3 dots, the ellipses. That's where you can turn on the Q&A, and that's also where you can take a poll. We would love for you to take a poll to talk about, to tell us who you are. That helps us figure out what we're going to say. Okay, I think with that, we're just going to jump right into it. I'm really excited for you to meet Kathleen Hermsmeyer. She's the Executive Director of Springs Charter School. She's been in this business for a very long time. I follow her on LinkedIn. She's incredibly inspiring. And Kathleen, could you introduce yourself and your team?
Well, thank you, Laura. I appreciate being asked today. I'm delighted to be here. I think my team members will echo my sentiment. Just to reiterate, my name is Kathleen Hermsmeyer. I'm happy at any time to help anybody who asks for help. And so feel free to email me. Our history, we began in 2000 with 17 children. We began with only non-classroom based homeschool, and our teachers used to visit the families, they still do in the homeschool program in the home, at least once a month. And then we began to realize our families needed more support, and we started to open centers. Our centers provide a continuum of programs from a 2-day a week in the classroom, 3-day, 4-day. We even offer 5-day a week in the classroom. But in all cases, our mission and vision remains the same of personalized learning and using the community as the classroom. We're K-12. We have hybrid programs, independent study with support, and 5-day programs. We have 20 centers now, mostly in Riverside County, but we also have centers in San Bernardino, Orange County, San Diego, and one in LA. Our goal is to partner with parents. Our original mission way back in the day in 2000 was to empower parents. We have shifted that mission slightly to empowering students and engaging parents. So it's always the parent connection has always been a huge emphasis with us. Involved parents are just pure magic with their kids. And so we know we're going to accelerate the learning more when we involve the parents in a real way, not like a token way, like often happens. So we personalize learning in multiple ways. A lot of times some computer companies have commandeered the term personalized learning to mean like computer-aided instruction, which we of course use. We use that stuff, but that's not what personalized learning means to us. It's a much wider thing. Our kids have books and workbooks and materials at home. We don't just do computer-based learning. We personalize pacing, content, learning process, and learning environment by working with the child and the parent to determine the skills a child needs, the child's preferred methods of learning, and the child's interest. That all comes in. So we can't just have the same scope and sequence for every student because the kids are interested in different things. So they might pursue those Common Core standards in different ways.
I think it's going to be really interesting to hear how you work with your teachers. We have, at the end of the poll, about 30% of our attendees today are teachers. So I think they're going to want to know what that looks like from their perspective. How do you do personalized learning for all those kids?
Right. And I know Vivian and Jackie both will bring that up, but I mean, it's actually not that hard. It sounds overwhelming to the teachers when they first think about it. It's like, oh, I'm going to have a different lesson plan for every student. That's not really true. It's really, in a lot of ways, it's the same lesson plan, but with a different content area. So the child might do a report on bugs, or they might do a report on dogs. It's completely different content, but the skills are the same. So anyway, but they'll talk more about that.
Can you tell us just a little bit about, just at the table, about your network? What counties are you in? How many learning centers do you have? How big are these sites?
20 centers, and it's basically all of Southern California except Imperial County. We don't have anything in Imperial County, but we have most of our centers are in Riverside, and we have one in LA, one in San Bernardino, one in Orange County, and 2 centers in San Diego. But then the rest of our 20 centers are in Riverside County.
Got it.
And it's a combination of different things.
And the centers are about 300 kids each, or they range in size?
Nope, they range in size. Our goal is to have kinder through 12th grade at every center if we can. In some cases, we don't, but generally speaking, we like to be a one-stop shop for the families, and they can bring all their kids, and we provide a variety of different programs from within the center, including special ed services and English language development. So,
and I know you've offered a different pedagogies too, like a Montessori or a classical.
Right. We are not a cookie cutter program. We have it's basically whatever grassroots interests are within that particular center's leadership. And because we believe when people are passionately interested in something, they're going to make a better program. So we have dual immersion. We have a couple of dual immersion programs. We have arts-focused programs. We have project-based learning-focused programs. We have a STEM program. So Montessori, classical. So we have a wide variety of options.
Great.
Whenever we do anything new, we always filter it through the lens, how does this further personalized learning? How does this empower students? How does this use the community as the classroom? How does it engage parents? Because those are our things. We're a mission-driven organization. So, we do relentlessly improve things. We make changes every year. And we've actually just had to, we have to let people know we are going to do that. That's part of our core values. We need to earn renewal every 5 years, like every charter school does. So, and so one of the things I was talking to Laura about before that you guys might be interested in terms of your, in terms of non-classroom based attendance or independent study attendance, is that if your teachers aren't doing the paperwork correctly, it can cost you thousands of dollars, maybe even $1 million. At one point we were losing out on ADA because of paperwork processes, and we instituted a compliance process with a bonus for our teachers, and that really increased our ability to capture all the money that we were owed. And after about 3 years, literally every teacher was getting the bonus, so the problem had been fixed. We had created a culture of accuracy for our paperwork, and so then we just rolled that bonus into the base pay and moved on to we just stopped doing it. So I just think we're just big on not necessarily doing the same thing every year. We you have to, and that is a culture thing in your school. And of course, right now, everybody's culture is being shook up by this.
Yeah. So I just want to clarify that attendance in a site-based program is based on butts and seats.
Right.
Non-classroom based school, you keep samples of work, and you have a master agreement, and you have to show evidence that the students have actually done it. So it's work-based.
It's progress-based, yeah. And so, yeah, it's simpler in some ways. It's simpler for us because we've been doing it for 20 years. But we do also seat-based attendance for our seat-based programs. So we have those too. But
Great.
We're a public organization for 20 years, and we share everything we create because we create everything on the public dollar. So we are happy to share. This PowerPoint is full of links that you can use. Why should you recreate the wheel? Why not just take our stuff and use it? And then if you make it better, please send it back to us.
So that Fair enough.
We can use it again. In fact, we won an award for sharing with the public, from the National Charter School Association, for our support of all students during the pandemic. Our open classroom is available actually over the summer too. So if your students want to use our open classroom content, it's a light version of our regular, independent study type program on our Canvas platform. And when we opened this in March, we had live teachers every day for the students, but we will not have live teachers over the summer, but we will have the content. I think Vivian's going to show you the landing page. It's all linked here under award winning. One thing to mention now that I'm looking at my slide here, one thing to mention is that we do have a large percentage of special ed students. Some of our locations, we have less special ed students, generally speaking, in homeschool than we do at our locations. Some of our locations are upwards of 25% special ed. So we do serve special ed in a very pretty much completely push in and along with consultation for the parent, because and a lot of our special ed kids really thrive in the environment. It works very well to have a more flexible environment for some special ed students. So
that's great. You started to do all virtual instruction or offering all virtual like 5 years ago, right?
We have some students who choose the 5-day a week at home, and they don't come into learning centers, but they, except for for testing, for benchmark testing and for CASP testing, but yeah, we've always had centers, and that's been a big part of our culture and our identity, is center-based. So that's why this change at the Safer at Home order has been hard for us, because some of our teachers teach full-time in a classroom, not on distance learning. And so they did have to come up to speed. We had the same problems that a lot of school districts have. We just happened to have a quicker pivot because of a variety of factors, including people on our team, a lot of people on our team who already knew how to do this, and we all had a similar Canvas platform, so we could do it. So anyway.
Great.
Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Vivian.
You've talked a little bit about these leadership, about the flexibility and not being able to persuade people. I love this second quote. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, it's just, when you're working with parents and they are doing the schooling at home, or they are supporting the schooling at home, if you tell the parents, well, you have to do this because the state tells us you have to do it, or because it's the state standards. Parents, especially our parents, they just don't care about that. They do not care what the state says. They do not care about the state. They have these bad ideas about the Common Core state standards, and they think that they're horrible. And so we don't talk about the California state standards, and we don't talk about the Common Core state standards. We just talk about what we call our ICANNs, which is a lot of districts are using the ICANNs as a substitute for standards, and they're in student-friendly and parent-friendly terms, and they are the state standards. And we tell the parents, these are the building blocks of success for your child. They're incremental learning. This is deep and enduring learning that paves the way for success, that kind of thing. And I can give a lot of examples why it's beneficial for a kid to be able to do a math problem in 2 different ways to really deepen their understanding of that math problem. And so, as opposed to getting on the bandwagon that this is what the state says we have to do, and we're a public institution and we take state dollars, so we have to do that, that's where that's not the right approach to take with parents, because they're only going to do what they believe in doing. And if you educate them to that this is going to help, and a lot of times I'll give a workshop to parents, and I'll tell them, they should be having the kids journal for math, let's say. I remember this particular example, and the parent was like, no way, my kid hates writing. It seems like a waste of time. That's all airy-fairy math stuff. That's not really math. And then the parent went away, so I thought, that parent's not going to do it. But then they wrote me about a week later and said, I tried your thing and it really worked. I was surprised, So this is the kind of stuff that happens if you build a relationship and if you keep trying and work on education as opposed to laying down the law.
What's this, you say here you trust site leadership to make real decisions about their program with a crystal clear framework. Can you share the framework with that? Is that what we're looking at now?
Yeah, so when we pivoted to distance learning, we with this pandemic, we created this framework, these expectations of teaching home study, which explained what we were expecting all the teachers to do, and then we let the principal and their site leadership and their teachers determine how they were going to make this work. So every one of our centers, every one of our 20 centers was doing it slightly different, but within these parameters. So that I think when you trust, it's the old speed of trust. Things can happen really fast if you trust your team. And when you don't trust your team and everything has to come from the central office, that's when everything slows down to a grinding, pace. And so, anyway, so this is what we did. We provided this cool little infographic, and we ensured that everybody was doing at least these things during the pandemic, and then they could figure it out from there within their own state. So, and
I noticed that part of that was grading. Let's talk about the parents and family piece. We've talked a little bit about it, but I know it's hard.
yeah,
Your program is
yeah. So we have a variety of activities for our parents, but one of the things we do is parent certification, and we have an entire program that parents can. Parents who complete this sequence of lessons get a certificate and a polo shirt, and they get recognition at our back to school conference as a certified parent certified mentor. I don't know, what do we call it, Vivian?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, we call them mentors or experts. We switched it around, but they're mentors. We recognize them as such. Jackie's actually worked for years with the parents. We've flipped their content also, so they're getting a lot of online independent study courses, and they have their electives, which are our events that are face-to-face that we offer throughout the year, and they have to present a project at the end of the year, and then they get graduated to be a mentor. Jackie, do you want to add anything in brief about that?
No, that's great. It's just an opportunity for our parents who are maybe new, to distance learning or new to Springs to be able to connect with parents that have been doing the work for a long time and then have gone through, like Vivian said, the courses and the things that we've created for them to just, up their game.
And we find that the parents have a lot of influence on each other. So if we have even though there's only a few parents, conceivably, like, for example, we have 2,000 families that are homeschooling, but we have only 300 families that take part in Parent Cert. Well, that's a small percentage, but it actually is it's an important percentage because they have great influence on their friends and their peers who are homeschooling, because it's a network. And so it works really well. And if you go to the next slide, that's my last slide, and I'll turn it over to Vivian. Just the main thing is relationships is where it all starts. Relationships with the family helps. They will do annoying things that they don't want to do if they have a relationship with you and they trust you. And they want what's best for their kids. And we just have to focus on those relationships with the kids and with the parents in order to get the best for the child. So
we have a question here about the parent mentor concept. This participant, Demi Brown, thinks it's awesome. Would you be willing to share the training or certificate materials and topics you cover? They want to roll something out similar next year.
Sure.
The cool thing about that too is the Vivian mentioned real quick, the parent complete projects at the end of the year. So they have their choice of how they want to demonstrate something that they learned during that program and how they've implemented it within their own education program for their kids. And then they share that with other parents. And we have a big back to school night where all the parents can come and see the projects that our parent certified educators have completed.
Can you go back to the parent page? We have another question. So you guys are a school of choice, and so people come to your program at least with a concept of wanting to do this work. But what advice would you give to folks who are working with families that didn't sign up for homeschooling? So maybe some of the things that smoothed out the bumps or things that are key to success in keeping parents engaged.
Definitely. I mean, I think Jackie will go into that in a lot better detail when she's showing the way that she organizes her class, because I think the easier you can keep it and the more consistent you can keep it across grades, because if parents are homeschooling 3 kids against their will across different grades, then the first thing they want to do is go into one person's class and it looks this way, and they have to negotiate, navigate the things this way, and then go into another class and it's completely different. So we try to keep things as simplified in terms of getting into it, not the content, but just the organization and the structure.
Yeah,
And what
one
are these
other thing we
tools here,
do- Sorry.
the daily refreshment and the Tuesday news, are those part of that
The
work?
daily refreshment is a email that goes out daily with a small tidbit for the parent, like it might be a suggestion of a field trip to go on or a little quick tip. But it's very engaging and colorful, and you don't have to scroll. The goal for the daily refreshment is that you don't have to scroll. You just look at it. It's like a bite-sized chunk. Tuesday news, I think that's just like a weekly newsletter sort of thing.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to add one other thing about the parent cert, or to answer that question about how do we help parents who maybe didn't sign up to homeschool or it wasn't their, like, dying wish. We also have a parent prep program that every parent coming into our independent study program has to go through. And it's really easy, but it does lay out kind of the nuts and bolts of organizing your day, helping your students set goals, looking at, proficiency, and they just get that over the course of the year in little bites. Also a blend of flipped or with their teacher. It's actually all available online. It's just not maybe as dynamic when it's viewed like that. And if somebody comes in and shows within the 2 weeks, so they actually know it, totally have it together, they've got a curriculum laid out, then they can be excused from that. But the initial thing is everybody goes through that, and parent certification is a choice. That's like much more in-depth and fun.
Well, let's get into curriculum instruction because we have all those folks on here. There is a question already about what online platforms you use. I think we'll get to that in a second, but why don't you lay out your philosophy and then let's check it out.
All right, let's do that. So I'm Vivian Price, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Education. So this is my area of the school. And so overall, we are, our mission is, like Kathleen mentioned, to empower students, but also that we are a personalized learning school. So every student has a very personalized plan, and it may look a little different. Well, it looks different for every child, and it looks different across our programs. And in order to personalize learning, we believe that there are 5 pillars or 5 conditions that we need to have. And they're here. Our 5 pillars include that: caring community, learner-driven, flexible environment, mastery learning, and then having personalized content and resources. So you're just looking at our pillars. We have linked teacher training, student materials, and leadership materials, as well as parents, to these pillars. And I'm going to kind of take you through that. And then there's a visual representation of what we see as the mastery learning process, starting with setting a student goal and ending with celebrating your mastery. And so
that's great. There's just been a lot of talk
go ahead,
right
Laura.
now about mastery-based grading and equity. So that's exciting. I'd like to hear a little more about that too.
Sure. Okay. Do you want me to jump right into that?
Or just keep going. You're on a roll. You're doing your thing. I love it.
Okay, but either way, I don't mind hopping around at all. As a matter of fact, I just will. I'll come back to the student materials. I'm going to go right into teaching the Springs way so we can talk about that mastery learning and mastery grading. So we are, we consider the way that we have our teachers working and our parents as teaching the Springs way, because we do consider ourselves unique in offering a personalized program, and we ask our teachers to work really hard, actually, in order to be able to do that. So we've tried, and we continue to develop the tools that they need, because the traditional tools don't always work, all right? So this, like one of those things that Kathleen had mentioned, needing a framework, and that's something we've found is to provide some of these tools, such as like the non-negotiables, will benefit our teachers. So let me show you, this thing is so touchy, the non-negotiables of mastery learning. Sorry, I'm having of course, now that it's my turn, I'm having a technical difficulty in which I can't click on any links on that page. Okay. Well, I could answer the question while I'm trying to get this to work. So was there a specific question about the equity, Laura, or just speak about it?
Well, I guess I'll break in for a second, Vivian, while you're trying to pull that up. One thing is that, you know, the highest expectations you can have for a student, for all your students, is that everybody master the content. Instead of just, some people say, we allow redos, retakes until the child gets it right. And that is, some old-fashioned teachers might say, well, that's not fair because some kids worked hard to learn it the first time, and then they got the A the first time, and the other kid got the F, and then they should just get the F and keep the F, you know. So that is not actually having high expectations for all students, because not all kids learn at the same pace, and kids sometimes have to fail before they'll finally figure out if they don't do the work in the beginning, they're going to end up having to do the work at the end, because we do not allow them. They have to master every content to get every credit. So every, you know,
yeah.
every one of the content. So.
Thank you, Kathleen. In order to do that, we have, of course, reduced the standard to our power standard. So, you know, those power standards, there's like 10 to 15 for every grade level, they need to master those. And so that's where the non-negotiables come in, because we've always believed in mastery learning, but actually articulating it and getting all the resources and really being firm was a process in terms of getting teachers on board. And so we started with a full year of just like mindset, and I recommend that for a shift in anything that you're going to do in the school system. So the non-negotiables included that redos and retakes. And so schedules need to be created to enable time for that. Of course, in the independent study environment, it's much easier, although for the teacher, there's a job with, you know, making sure they see when the redos and retakes come in. So you can just see, you guys can look at this after. We've identified what levels of mastery look like. There's proficiency scales for every grade level. And these are, the grading and reporting, zeros are not permitted. There's no averaging, there's no extra credit. It is based on the student's individual mastery at the pace that it takes. High school, I will just say we're not focused on high school today, but of course we have to tighten timelines, and that's really it, but not for elementary. All right.
A good example of that, if we think about it, is like getting our driver's license, right? So if somebody goes and takes their driver's license and they fail the first time, then there's no penalty for that. They just schedule their, you know, behind the wheel appointment again, and they just take it again later, and they do their driver's license. It's not a reduced driver's license. It's not any different than the person who had gotten it, you know, the first time around. And so it's just a really good example for us, I think, of why we promote mastery learning and what that looks like.
Definitely.
How do you keep all this straight, though? With all these kids, I think as a teacher, you said you have, how many families do you work with as an individual teacher? 25? Oh, it could be more.
35. Yeah.
35, yeah. And you said you use Canvas as the backbone for all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Which
Some
is
of
a
our
free system,
teachers
right?
have 100 or plus kids if they're single subject, but it is the Canvas gradebook that they use to manage this, because they can see when new submissions come in, they can take the final grade. I don't know, Jackie, if you want to say anything else about it, but that's in terms of logistics.
When we get into my Canvas course in a little bit, you know, you guys will get a little peek into that. Vivian, if you want to bring up the ICANN folder too and show that.
Yeah, I want to show a little bit of this from this slide here. I have some of the tools. These are, the first couple things are focused on what we provide the students. So this ICANN folder, you know, twofold, because the teachers can use it, but it's really intended for the students. And this is just an electronic copy, so you're just going to have to really.
And the parent too.
Oh, yeah, the parent too. When I say teacher also, it's teacher parent using. can exchange those words. So this folder follows students. So this one right here is just, it's a kinder, and it's got both math and English, and you can see, but you probably can't small, but when you look after, all of their standards are listed, and they can, there's a pre-quiz column, and then there's a like date, and then a mastery column, so they can just keep track. We have online courses called ICANN courses to match this folder. So a student can go in and, you know, click on whatever the standard might be, ICANN K3, and there's a mastery quiz, there's assignments that the kids can create or work on. It's the learning part, of course. And then they take a mastery quiz. Mastery quiz is only one measure, though. We require at least three items or whatever, 3 points of evidence for every skill. So a mastery quiz, great, that's one way. Now, can you apply it in a project? Can you talk about it? You know, that type of thing. So they have this. And then we also have power tools. This is just a really, we have created a list of tools for our students that we call power tools, because we believe that they are the best, really literacy tools, but the best tools that you can use in every grade and in every subject. And the focus is for students to really internalize these things. Like, for example, if they are presented with a difficult text, and if they have a lot of practice with the tool SQ3R, they should be able to sort of, you know, reach down within and say, oh, I know this strategy already. I can handle this difficult text because I'm going to do this. And the same applies for all. These are research-based. When we implemented 10 years ago, we rolled out 5 at a time and had, you know, lots of training and activities with those. So, okay.
Laura, how much time do we have left? Because I want to make sure we have time for Jackie's.
Yeah, we have about 20 minutes, so I think.
Perfect. Okay, good. All right.
I'm going to shift it over to Jackie within about 3, maybe. I'll show you guys a couple other quick things.
Okay.
We do have a question, Vivian, around, down here you have social emotional learning.
Yep.
I think one of your pillars is a caring community.
Yeah.
How do you do that in a digital environment, or how do you do that in a hybrid program?
Okay, so Jackie is going to talk about how she does that in the digital environment. So I would like her to be able to do that. In the hybrid, you know, there's a variety of things. On Kathleen's slide earlier, you saw like the community circles. That's an important part of getting to know the students. And when we went to everyone was virtual distant learning, teachers continued to have community circles in the online environment. So if anything else, as a matter of fact, they were meeting with their kids in the morning as a small group. And then the Spring's Habits of Success, we have actually built lesson plans around these habits of success. So I'm going to show you really quickly a couple of those. I'll just show you one little thing that we have for the habits of success. I'm going to come back to that. Okay, so habits of success. So this is another thing. We defined these things so that we're all attending to the same, you know, social aspects of the student. So like this, we have these are our graduate learner outcomes, but within each we have like this self-awareness, responsibility, empathetic, self-control. So we have lesson plans for all of these that teachers can use, families can use at home. One other thing we are doing with the social emotional is, I'll actually skip ahead because Kathleen, I think I'll just mention the ACEs here and how they're, okay. So we have, sort of as part of our special ed, but also our general ed, we have a specialized instructional aid called ACEs, and they are our assistant classroom educators, and they are pulling small groups of students for, so it could just be for like those character building or social emotional, but they're also supporting them academically with these interventions, and they are continuing to do that in an online setting. And so they're really helping to support the whole child and make sure like the social emotional aspect is attended to at the same time. So, all right.
That's great. We've seen from other webinars that sometimes the people that are doing this work following up when kids don't show up or
That's
interventions they're outside the team. But this is a pair. A teacher is paired with one ACES person, right?
And the thing to mention about that is it's a good fiscal model because we keep our classroom sizes larger and because we have to pay the bills. And but one of the best, so in our way, in order to get the classrooms to be personalized and to ensure that the kids are engaged and on task in a personalized, in their personalized activities, having another adult that we can count on as opposed to volunteers is really important. And this person goes out to lunch with the kids. This person goes to recess with the kids. Therefore, when we instituted the ACE program about 4 or 5 years ago, and that, like I said, the assistant classroom educator stays the whole day with that class, with that teacher. So they become a pair, a partnership. And all of our behavior problems went down significantly because there was all those transition times where all the behavior problems happen out on the playground, at lunch, et cetera. There was somebody that those kids knew and were used to obeying. So it's kind of like it becomes this family environment. That was sort of an unintended consequence, but it was a very positive consequence. So it was worth having those ACEs, and it's a big expense, but it's worth it.
Laura, as we shift to Jackie, I just want to let everybody know that at the beginning of the PowerPoint, there is a bit.ly with all of these materials in them. Jackie's are not in there, so she needs to add some of those in. But you can get there by the link because I'm not going to be able to share all this, and I think people should take a look at our first step instruction tools, but I really want to give Jackie time, so I think we should shift gears.
Let's do it. I'm shifting over to Jackie. Just a reminder that if you have questions, you can go to the bottom of your page where the ellipses is, where it says more options, and you can turn on your Q&A. And we will have the folks from Springs answer them. Jackie, show us what this actually looks like. This is what are we looking at right now? This is the Canvas platform, right?
Yes, so this is a landing page for my course, and I'll just take a minute to introduce myself. My name is Jackie York, and I'm now a teacher with Springs Charter School. I've been with Springs for 17 years, and I've held a variety of teaching and administrative positions. And I taught, in a traditional brick and mortar physical classroom, years even before joining the Springs team. Last year, I was actually part of our instructional support department, and I developed the third grade curriculum for our venture program, which is a completely online distance learning program. So our students have a teacher who's and in a distance learning platform. And so this last year, I decided that I wanted to become a part of the venture program and actually teach for them. And so I am now teaching. I am the third grade teacher now. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So in a distance learning program, and so again, venture is completely distance learning, there are some key components. And so the first is, asynchronous. And so this is the content and the instruction that we provide to students where they are accessing lessons and they're doing this really independently from home. So you can use homegrown lessons that you've created for students in advance, much like you would be doing, in a flipped classroom environment. And then there are also canned lessons that students can access, like we use a Ready Math curriculum. And so you'll be able to see examples of each of those. And then we also, as Kathleen mentioned, that we do have some personalized learning programs that students are able to access as well. And so those are programs that are, those are outside providers, and the students can access those and work on those. They're really ability-based. And so the lessons that they have are based on, diagnostic scores. So they're working at their own pace and really personalized. And then another important part of a distance learning program is the synchronous instruction. And so those are the live sessions where I'm actually meeting face-to-face with all of my students real time. And that looks much like the instruction would in a physical classroom. And there's even more that we can do in the distance learning synchronous environment that you can't always do in a physical classroom. Of course, we don't have proximity, so we can't, stand next to a student to be able to engage with them or get their attention. But there are so many other things that we can do to make those live sessions really engaging. And it's really easy, for example, to have like an exit ticket at the end where you just print out their entire chat. You can leave them with some questions and print out the entire chat. So there are a lot of advantages to that. And then, of course, we really want to build relationship. And so you've heard that talked about already, the importance of me being able to build a relationship with my students, but also my parents. It's really kind of like a trinity. Like, it's just as important for me to engage and involve the parents as it is the students, because they're the ones that are at home every day kind of overseeing and working over the student's shoulder. And so it's important for me that my parents know exactly what my students are doing and they can provide that support as well. So you'll see a lot of it where I'm engaging parents and students. So.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool to see how parents were recording feedback from their students. And I also love to see how they were engaging in text with textbooks through this platform. Can you show us some of those examples?
So this is the landing page. You can see, like, the first thing, we had a little contest that Kathleen had initiated for them to complete 45 minutes in iReady instruction. So this was updated every week, and these were all the winners. And just below that, you can see that I have a parent orientation. So it's really important. I have a back-to-school night with them, but also parent orientation. And this tells parents, exactly like what to expect about third grade. They meet me. There's audio that's embedded where I tell them about the different components of the program, and they learn a little bit about what curriculum that they'll be using. And then it's really even engaging and interactive for parents too. So I'm asking them some questions, getting their feedback. They're kind of summarizing what their language arts program is going to look like, and then even summarizing at the end. And then I have them take a little poll.
I've used the same.
And tell me a little bit about, what they expect, why they chose this distance learning program, any questions, what they're looking forward to, so that I can begin, that relationship with them from the very beginning. So that's an example of like parent orientation.
And when the parents fill that out, you get information back in their students folder, or how does that work?
Yep. It actually can create, so at the very end, when they complete it, it creates a little summary of all that, and then they just export it and send it right over to me. So
great.
So when students are logging in to complete their coursework each day, they just go to begin their course content. And the year is structured around modules. So I'm going to give you a little example of a module that back from April of rules in fiction and facts. And you can see that everything is then broken up into weeks. And so this is an example of a checklist. So it's really important that students, know what it is that they should be doing each day. So all of their instruction and their assignments are planned out on a weekly basis, as you see here. And then pacing is provided for them what they should be doing each day, what a typical day would look like. But we give them some flexibility in distance learning so that all of their work needs to be completed by the end of the week. And then I'm checking in with them regularly from day to day. And so these are all their assignments. And you can see that everything is linked there for them. So students are accessing their content and their instruction, their assignments, all from this checklist. And you can see that these are examples here of that synchronous or asynchronous instruction where they're doing it on their own. And I've created the content for them in advance. And then also where they access those live sessions, those synchronous sessions. And so I just had a few of them that were scheduled this week. They did a GimKit, like math facts practice with me. And for those of you who are teachers, 30% of you online right now are teachers. GimKit is a really fun tool that you can do with kids in a virtual setting, or even synchronous or asynchronous, that's kind of like a game show, and they absolutely love it. they had a live session with me on Wednesdays, and I kind of did a simulation with them where they were lost at sea and they were all sitting out on their blankets in their backyard, and I told them what materials that they needed, and we kind of went through this whole problem-solving scenario as if they were lost at sea and they were trying to get off that raft and be saved.
Love that.
And then this was the beginning of that pandemic, so we did a little show and tell. Like I just had them; they just loved that, being able to get together and do some show and tell with their peers and so.
And how long? So when a this is all teacher driven, right? So when a new teacher comes on board, how long does it set them to set up the year? Like that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So. Because it's a combination, like I said, of homegrown lessons that you are creating for your students, and you can replicate a lot of what you have already created for, a face-to-face physical classroom. You can replicate that online, relatively easily if you've already got planned lessons and content that you're used to delivering. I embed a lot of audio and a lot of video, and what's cool about that is when there's audio and video, the kids can stop and pause and rewind and listen to it again. And so it's really good scaffolding for our students too, to be able to go back and get, like a reteaching almost by going back and listening to it one more time.
Jackie, we should mention also that the Canvas has a commons.
Yeah.
Canvas offers a lot of free public use courses that if a teacher is just starting on Canvas and they don't want to create something from scratch, they can use other people's courses and then modify it for them.
Yeah. And
we're starting to clip down to our last 7 minutes or so. I would really love for you to share the video of kids giving feedback.
Okay.
So it's the two-way street.
Yep. So let me go, for example. That particular lesson that I was showing you is at the beginning of the week is kind of a discussion thread. It's the beginning of a module, so I wanted them to kind of be thinking about what the module was going to be about. So I provided them like a virtual tour that they took. So they were looking at pictures that were provided to them. They were listening to a symphony. They were getting some audio, some graphs, some charts, even some audio of wolves. And then they participated in a discussion thread at the end with their peers, like, one thing I noticed or one thing I'm wondering about. And then they had that discussion thread to kind of give them a preview of that module. And so this is the discussion thread then with students. So this is all written. So this is like written chat. And I'm, engaging with the students also in that chat. One of the things that I do that I think you're talking about, like the exit ticket, is that what we? Okay. So one of the other things that I do with students is, and with parents, is I have an exit ticket each week, and I change up the questions every single week. And so this is an opportunity for parents and students. I ask parents to interview their child and ask them the questions that I've shared, and it gives students an opportunity to reflect on the week, and for them to let me know, something that went well or somewhere where they might be struggling, a goal that they had, that kind of thing. And so this is done as a media share with parents, and so I'll send you one with you really quick.
This is really great because we've seen other keys to success from programs like this as a survey, a weekly survey, touching base with both internally with teachers and also with families. But this is a cool way to do it digitally and get a personal touch.
I love to look at these every single week, and then I just shoot a video back myself of me responding to their exit ticket every week. And so,
How was your week? Great. Did you learn anything new?
Oh, I was learning about the ball graphs and stuff.
Yeah. You like the pictographs?
Pictographs is fun,
I have pictures that you like.
Yeah.
All right. What are you reading for fun?
Ooh. The fun before bed with my mom and me. I have this book, Heidi Huckleback is the Best of Babysitter.
One thing we should mention, Jackie, is that the Canvas does allow for video and audio, and I think that a lot of times teachers use that too seldom, because it does really add a human element, even if it's just an audio. If the kids, like you do your fluency, where the kids are reading their prompts.
Yeah. I mean, it's so nice because students have a choice. Often you can give them a choice on how they're going to demonstrate their learning. So they can do a file upload. So if they do something by hand, they can scan it and upload it, or they can do a media share where they're actually showing me something that they've created, you know, or they can do audio and tell me about it. So there's so much choice there. The other thing that we can do with instruction too, you know, it doesn't have to be that much different than it was in a classroom. So this is, you know, a flipped lesson that I created, and the students were reading Lone Popo. They actually had a physical copy of the book as well, and I had asked them to already read it. There's also, you know, this is just a YouTube I found of somebody actually reading it, and so they can listen to it that way. But this is third grade, so I'm able to do, you know, here I'm asking them to do choral reading, and so they can listen to me. That by clicking on this button here, the audio, they can whisper. Actually, I'm asking, chorally whisper. So they click on that button, they listen to me read it, and then there's choral whispering. And then I ask them to, you know, answer a couple of questions about it, that particular page, and then they can click on this and hear my thoughts. So I can do a lot of modeling and think aloud for them, just like I would do in the physical classroom. And I'm having them, you know, think and then kind of compare their answers to me. So there's so much that immediate feedback they can get. Here I'm asking them to just read along silently while they listen to me read it. Here I'm asking them to just read it independently and then answer the questions. And so you can provide so much of that formative feedback, you know, also just built into your flipped lesson. So here I had them pause, and then I asked them a couple of questions. I wanted them to think about it, and then after thinking about it, then they can click here and they can listen to my, you know, my thoughts and compare what their thoughts were to mine.
I love this.
The entire book, and then I do a little, this is just a quick little, you know, and they can check their answers, so you can build in some of that engagement.
And this is all built through the tools that are integrated with Canvas.
Yeah. And so I modeled.
Amazing.
You know, in that guided practice piece, I modeled for them how to do a character analysis, and we did one together in that flipped lesson, and then that's what I asked them to do independently. The exact same thing, but with a different story. But I modeled for them exactly how to do this, you know, during that lesson.
This has been really so great, Jackie and Kathleen. We have run out of time. We really appreciate you taking the time to share this with you. We are going to send everyone on this call a copy of the slideshow with all of the links in it. You know, I learned so much. I hope that folks on the line also learned so much. I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Have a great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.